Hello, everyone. I'm David, and I'm here with John. We're both PIs, and the, he's been targeted about 25 years. He's been corresponding with me through the email and stuff, and today we're going to interview him about his targeting, and we're also going to show a video where these mysterious burns showed up on his sheets. I'm going to share the current screen and show that. They've been hacking my Zoom, so if you can't hear the video, I'm sorry, but just at least pay attention to the sheets when I do show it. John, thanks for coming today. Really appreciate it. Your bravery coming out and telling your story. Could you tell us what your life was like before you were targeted and what it's like now?
Yeah, my guess is I started being heavily targeted when I was about 20 years old. That was around 1999 or the year 2000. Before that, I'd say I was a pretty nice kid, like funny. I was kind of introverted, uh, creative. Like I liked words a lot, poetry, and I just had a lot of creativity flowing through my head. I wasn't very skillful at using the creativity, but it was what was in my head that I love so much, and that's just the Lord's gifts to you, the peace and the happiness and the joy. And one I kind of fell away from the Lord. And then when you do that, things will start happening to you. You will start being attacked, and you will be left to the enemy. And he states that pretty clearly in the Bible. Um, but I'd started going to parties, uh, drugs. Like I liked hallucinogens a lot, and I met a friend who I started going to like raves with in Chicago. It really wasn't my scene, but I like dancing a lot, and so I go there and you take ecstasy, and then you just dance all night long. Well, one night uh, I took something, and what happened then was hard to describe. Uh, for about 20 years before I woke up to understand what stalking is, what electronic torture really is. I had thought that I took a bad drug, had a bad trip, whatever. But that's part of covert stalking. The covert part of it is they have to give you a false narrative to believe so that you don't go looking for what was actually done to you, right? So this thing that happened was it rearranged my mind. I'll say that much. It was like something dug into me and drudged up every shameful moment or embarrassing moment. It looked for all my character flaws and then presented them to me, right? It made me relive through all these things. And it was so traumatic. What happened is I disassociated. That's part of uh, the trauma abuse, satanic ritual
Yeah.
abuse, is the disassociation. And I did that pretty hard. So after that, I was pretty much just a walking corpse. Like there was nothing inside me. I was just kind of an empty shell. Don't feel love, joy, happiness. It just was emptied out, hollow. Um, at that point, I started getting extreme panic attacks and anxiety, especially around people, like social anxiety. And uh, like I couldn't go out. I couldn't go outside. I know you struggle with agoraphobia, don't you, Dave?
Yeah, very much so.
Um, I was like that for about 15 years. it's not that I didn't go out. It's just I would stay inside and not want to. Because when I did go out, like to family functions or something, I would be hit with extreme panic attacks. I'm sorry if my phone's shaking,
Oh, that's fine.
um, but I get hit with
I can
extreme,
relate to you on the panic attack thing. Huh.
right? It like I couldn't breathe. That's the biggest one. Is like I just couldn't breathe, and somebody would try to start a conversation with or say something to me, and you'd just be like, it locks up in your chest, and you can't
Yeah, your chest
breathe.
gets real tight.
Yeah. So that ruined a lot of my social relationships between, my family and friends. And when you're like that, I mean, it turns you like into a wild animal. You just constant torture, But like I said, I didn't understand any of this until about 4 years ago.
Right.
Um, and when I started looking into it, I don't know if you'd heard of the Q drops, the Q
Yeah.
project. So I started looking into that, and these things started making sense. So I started looking back over the last 25 years of my life and saying, hey, this is starting to add up. Uh, the electronic torture, uh, the panic attacks and the anxiety and all that. And that led to understanding AI and how it's related to this whole torture grid thing. But
So
see, at the time,
when you disassociated, you were going through a very traumatic event, huh?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was unbelievable. And I have a friend who's a little older than me, and I made friends with her, a long time ago, and she had told me things that she had experienced, and she's up on all this too. She's been tortured and stalked. Her family is too. Her two sons. Um, but when I told her about how it went through my mind and then dredged up like all the shameful, embarrassing things, she her jaw dropped because that is the exact same thing that happened to her. Um, and she had been through it all. So we talk about I do have people around me who are aware of what's going on, which is a great comfort. I don't know, like, did you have family, David, who were, or did you
Um,
find?
I got a couple family members that you know, uh, I can talk to them if I need to, and they're open-minded about it. They don't really believe it, but they're open-minded about it. Other than that, you know, most of my family was like, "Well, don't even show me no videos. I don't even want to see it." And this and blah blah blah, because I guess it was too big for their imagination.
Yeah, yeah, you run into that, and sometimes it's so you'll find opposition, where they'll get angry at you. But I'm thankful that the Lord had woken up like my sisters and my cousins at the same time that they woke me up. So we aren't really alone in this. We see different parts of it for ourselves, but we all know that there's something very big going on.
Right, and
So
there's we're sad as a lot of targeted individuals are so isolated and traumatized. They're scared to reach out to anybody because they think everything is staged, everything is framed.
yeah,
Everybody they come
yeah,
across is going to be a perp. And that's just not
yeah,
so. There's glitches all in the matrix, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I do.
yeah,
I
but you got
find
to
myself
step out of
doing
your
that way.
comfort zone and try to make friends. So, if somebody is coming up to, if somebody's talking to me or sending me messages and stuff like that. And I'm thinking they're perps automatically. That's where my mind wants to go. But then it's like,
Yeah,
how will I know? I got to give this person a chance. because you can still
Mhm.
give somebody a chance without letting yourself be screwed over. And that's what I had to learn because I didn't trust nobody. So I think it's sad, because a lot of targets are that way. They don't even think it's possible to have a friend when really the
Right.
matrix isn't perfect and there's glitches all in it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I find myself kind of falling into that too. Like, man, I'm gonna walk to the store today and everybody is gonna, be stalking me and everything they say is an attack. And hell, it might even be true, but I don't have to, because man, here's the way I see it. Like, I know that these cars are following me, right? But when I don't usually look at them, but when I do, all I see is like a little old lady. You know what I mean? And I can't I can't bring myself to like hate her or accuse her. I just see like, oh, that's a little old lady in a car, and that's all it is. So I try not to let that paranoia get to me too much, to where I'm hating everybody. I still try to have, normal relationships and try to stay functional. But man, the weight of it and the intensity of seeing this strange theater show play out in front of you, like, it's you can't deny it, like people like us who see it, it's so obvious to us. And then to have a friend or somebody just like, what, that's not happening, that's not a
Yeah,
thing that's
gaslighting.
happening, right? And then it's easy for me to say, what, I maybe I am crazy. This, how is any of this even possible? It's so far-fetched. How is this even possible? It can't be happening. But
And
thing
so
there are,
so you would so that's how you found out about targeting was through Q.
yeah, through Q.
Which,
And
I've
I
heard rumors that Q was a big psyops. I don't know. You might know more about it than me. I never really got into the Q thing. Uh,
right.
but what's your opinion on that?
Well, it's undeniable that uh Q and Trump are linked together because of how the drops works. They're coded messages. And so you'll go to a Q drop and then you look at the timestamp, and then Donald Trump will tweet something, and then it'll be under the same timestamp, and then the basic, it might have a few words that are exactly the same, like within the drop. So
Right,
they had to do that in order to let us know that this operation was legit. It is connected to Donald Trump and the military, but it's up to you guys to decide if you trust Trump, right?
right.
But there is no doubt that they are linked, and the Q project is real.
So
But
what was Q saying about targeting individuals that let you know, hey, this is going on with me?
uh, well, I didn't even know the term for a while. I started like when I knew the country was under attack, it made me mad. And like when I got mad, like, this is my country, things are going on, I have to do whatever I can to protect it. I'm patriotic like that. I'm a strong spirited person. And so, I was agoraphobic, like I said. So to fight that, what I did is I started walking around, right? Like, I'd walk 3 or 4 miles a day.
Yeah,
But I started noticing that wherever I went, things were happening around me. Like, wherever I was, like, uh, cars would start honking their horns, or uh, garbage trucks would let out their air brakes right next to me, or certain colors of trucks or cars in a row would drive past me,
right.
or just things like that. I'm like, this, something's, I'm being stalked, right? So at first I thought it was the secret societies, like the Freemasons, Shriners, because I was doing a whole bunch to decode their symbolism,
Yeah.
right? Their mystery. And so I thought that they were onto me for that, which is pretty much true. They have it's called white glove treatment or silent dagger, which is
Yeah.
exactly what gang stalking is. Uh, I think Brian too said it best. He said, it's nothing overt where they come beat you up and shoot you, right? It's covert. And he said it's minor social aggressions. That's perfect. And it's not just once or twice, it's hundreds of times a day. Loud cars driving by your house or honking their horns, uh, things like that. But that's how I knew there was I was being stalked. There was an enemy around me. I didn't understand who this enemy was, how they operated, or anything like that. So I really dove into trying to understand the enemy. It's one of the first things you do in a war is know your enemy. And that took me to some pretty strange places. But
Right.
then,
So when you stalking started, could you explain the feeling you got when you were stalked and what was going on, and
yeah,
did you stalked in
yeah.
droves,
Uh,
was mass people stalking you? What was that feeling like when you first started experiencing that?
That's a really good question because it's very important to why they do the stalking is the feeling that you get. And what it is like when you're unaware and somebody comes up behind you and says, boo, right?
Right.
And you jump, you get that shooting feeling of fear inside you for that instant. Well, imagine that happening to you hundreds of times a day, right? So every time they drive by and honk a horn, I would get that. It's like a shock, like, and it was extreme and it would linger. That feeling would linger for like 5 minutes. And so you're in a constant state of agitation. And it's like, how is this? Because I didn't feel like myself. It didn't feel like a natural, normal reaction. And that's when I started to understand the electronic side of things, how they are using my first first thoughts were the cell towers, right? That they must be using these cell towers in some way to agitate me or to amp up my my emotions, right? Of fear and anxiety that they're doing this from outside of my body. And yeah, because it didn't feel natural, right?
Mm. Right.
But
Did you get the
yeah, that
so back to explaining what you were feeling when you were being gang stalked. So you had a sudden fear, right? And then
yeah.
was it like was it a pending doom? Did you go into fight or flight? I know gang it puts
Uh,
me into fight or flight. It's what it does to me.
yeah, yeah. Because
Well,
that
not so much as it used to, but yeah, most of the time it would put me in fight or flight.
yeah, that's your fear that like you want to fight back against this potential threat, right? And so I would get that's another amplified emotion that I would get is extreme hostility, right? Like extreme anger and hatred at people. And that's how they get these people, the mass shooters, the to do that is because they amp up your hostility and your anger. Like me, I was always very calm and quiet and loving person. And then it turned me into, well, what they try to get you to do, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I've had those thoughts, got to protect yourself. These people are trying to kill you. That is their goal, is to kill you, get you put in prison or a mental ward, right? And why don't I have the right to protect myself from that? So I definitely, well, I won't go down that path,
Would
just to
you say
keep
they
it
made you bitter overall?
for sure.
Like I was
Yeah,
bitter. I mean, I went through a year of being bitter at the whole world. Like I was walking around with hate in my heart. Uh,
yeah,
there wasn't no love there. It was all bitter. And if I felt like you were trying to screw me over, which I did about everybody when I was going through that bitter time, then I would try
mhm,
to flip it around on you and screw you over. And I'm not proud of that. But that was just
right,
I was going through, that was just a fact of life for me. I was like, everybody's in on it. There's no doubt about it. You're trying to screw me over. So if I can you're being nice to me to try to screw me over. So if I can screw you over, I'm going to do it because I thought they were really being
right,
nice to me just to screw me over. So I went through a year of that,
yeah,
and then I said, you know what? I'm not going to be that person. They're trying to turn me into something. I'm going to walk in love and try to be a better person. But so I've been.
yeah.
Is
Good
that
for
what
you,
you're
man.
talking about? The bitterness?
No, I never got the feeling that I wanted to screw people over,
Well, not screw
because I
nobody
came
over. I'm
from,
just saying, like, if somebody was being nice to me and
it was for
I
a
just
reason,
felt like they had a motive, and I tried to peep out that motive, and I don't mean like
right?
I just mean like it's just hard to explain.
Yeah, I kind of get what you mean though,
Right,
but I guess the bitterness that I felt mostly was in that, how you said that you didn't feel love or joy or like
right,
camaraderie with other people.
right. I
It's
thought everybody was playing games with me.
right. It broke up one of my relationships real bad. I was with a girl, and this when I first started understanding that I was being stalked. And that's some of the weirder things, man. The real weird things. Like, she would read my mind, and like the things that she would say were part of things I was thinking, right? And so I started thinking like, oh, she's one of them, right? I'm just like this I'm one of their play toys, right? And it got really bad until I understood what was really going on and realized that it wasn't her at all. And I mean, the I was pretty bad to her, and it breaks my heart because she's a wonderful person. And
Was you bad to her because you thought she was trying to because you thought she was
yeah,
perping you?
I thought she was one of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and but it was only after we had broken up and I went to live with my mom because she got sick, and I left my girlfriend, and then I got to mom's, and then the same thing started happening with my mom, right? Like the things that she said, the mind reading, that they would bring up conversations or say things that I was thinking. And that's when I'm like, yeah, there's something else going on, because I'd always been real close to mom. And but yeah, the mind reading, how how do you begin to describe to another person how that works? That when you go out to the coffee shop, there's a group of people there acting out some, like, a memory of yours or something that had happened to you or something that you were thinking about. How do you describe that to somebody without seeming insane?
Right.
I have no way to describe it, and it's okay that we're not believed, Because when Jesus Christ came to the world and walked through the land, trying to tell people what was going on, who believed him, right? Nobody would believe him. And he is the creator of the world, and nobody believed him. So I've stopped feeling bad about people not believing me. But I mean, do can you do you have uh, memories or have you seen that, David, where the whole mind reading thing and the theater show where they put on street theater from things of your out of your thoughts?
Oh yeah. Or they'll bring up conversations like right beside you of stuff that you just went through in your life that was very major, like you might be going through something and they'll oh yeah, definitely. A lot.
Yeah,
And then they'll
and
do
that's
yeah, their
why.
little street theater skits and
Yeah,
or they'll know I'm looking out the window of the house and they'll pull in the driveway and go back. They'll get out of their car and go all the way around to the passenger back seat, act like they're getting something and they're hiding it. And then they go back to the front seat and get back in their car. And then they get back out again just to make me think that they're doing something or pointing weapons. It's just a skit.
yeah,
And they have different motives behind each skit and different things they're trying to accomplish, which one of the main things
right,
is they everything they do is designed to make you react because they're trying to create
right.
a cognitive model of your brain through emotions that
Yeah,
are
your
recorded through
digital
remote neural monitoring.
digital twin, right? They yeah, Brian too. I discovered Brian too, and man, his 3 hour interview on the Jeff Rentz show, that is some of the best stuff that people are going to find,
Yeah, I got
because
that
the
on my
way that,
channel.
yeah, I encourage, what I do is like I'll take a video like that and then I'll turn it into an MP3 and throw it on my phone, and I'll just walk and I'll listen to it over and over and over again.
Right,
And like what Brian too says, like about Robert Duncan, he says, I don't read Robert Duncan, I study Robert Duncan. And I encourage people to do that. You take his words and what he's saying and compare it to your own experiences,
right.
and
Which is why I'm reading that
really,
Project Soul Catcher on my
yeah,
channel.
I
Yeah,
saw that. I take a lot of your videos that you do, and like I said, I turn them into MP3s and I just listen to them over and over again. And you've got some, like 3 or 4 of them that are excellent. And I'm not sure where you don't. I don't think you really said where you pulled the information from, but you list out all of the effects of cyber stalking and all that. But
yeah.
there's 3 or 4 of yours that are excellent, man. But I appreciate what you do of creating a space where people can gather together who are experiencing this. And like it's not too big either, right? You don't have like millions of followers and
Right. Yeah, and the reason I did that, I was sitting there one day and then, I was like, my mom did me wrong. And anyway, that's a long story. I ended up under a bridge and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start recording my experiences. Then when I ended up in the hospital, I knew I was going to be in the hospital more than a month from that direct energy attack I suffered in Colorado at the airport. I said, you know what? I'm going to be here for a while. So I'm going to start exposing this information little by little. And because, I had three serious suicide attempts in 2015. And if I would have
yeah,
known what was going on and understood, then I wouldn't have done that. So I thought I was going nuts. So that's the whole
yeah,
purpose of this channel. And then the interview thing now, the reason I'm interviewing everybody is, because I used to tell my family, well, how are all these people on the internet talking about this? And it's not true. So
right,
now there's a whole catalog of different stories I'm building up where people can see, hey, this is different people, different parts of the United States and the country, and they're all saying different, same story, but different versions.
right,
So, can I ask you
yeah,
about your direct energy attacks and what you
sure, man.
experienced
All right, let me think.
and how and the controlling your body part and all that? Could you explain what you go through with all
Oh
that?
yeah. So let me think. The video of my sheets, where the red lines on the sheets, the little cuts on my sheets. That's the most obvious one I've really ever encountered, that you can look at this and say something happened here, right? This is physical evidence. But there's a lot of real subtle things. Like I think like pops, like if you're sitting on your couch or laying in bed, there'll be pops
And
or
cracks in the
cracks.
ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah, pop, pop.
And
And what
then
they're
you're
doing
getting
is
burnt and
testing.
feeling the effects.
Yep. And it's like a low vibration, like you're always kind of vibrating in a weird way. And a discomfort, constant discomfort that you never feel at ease or at peace with yourself.
Right. Do you
Actually,
get
I
your
made
head
a
heated up, sweating all the time? Do you experience all that?
no, I have not experienced those, but there are lots of others, and I made a little bit of a list, so I got a reference.
All right. While you're
Let
getting
me
that
see.
list, I'm going to go ahead and play the share the screen and play this video of where you're showing what they did to your sheets and how you just had burn holes show up in your sheet.
All right, go ahead, man.
Okay. Here it is. Now pay attention to the sheet. This phenomenon just happened out of the blue. Holes don't just show up in your sheets with burn marks around them.
Hey David, this is John Edwards, man. I remember, I think it was on your channel, dude. I feel real uncomfortable on video, so I
Hold
never
on.
use it. See that I'm for real. I remember they were talking about the dews and the burns. So a couple later after that, I noticed some holes in my sheets, and they said that it left some kind of a red residue, like where they saw the burn marks. Now I want you to see this, man. Check this out. So these just started showing up on my sheets, and you can tell they don't look like tears. I mean, it's been a while since this has happened, so like I've washed them a few times, so they were a lot straighter. But you see this red residue? You see that? It's the same shit they were talking about. And on the inside here, you see that? That's a burn. That's a burn, dude,
And
and
you
it's
see the
not
burns
cut.
on the sheet.
It's
He's showing
melted.
the
You can
burns
feel
around
it,
the edges.
or it's been melted. It's not a cut.
And you can feel where it's been melted
Yeah.
is what he says,
So I just
just in case they've hacked my stuff, he's showing the burns. And you know how when if you were to put a flame to a sheet, you would get a hole in the sheet and around the edges it would be hard. And that's what he's showing right here. And I'm gonna play it one more time. My stuff's been hacked, so most of the time when I play a video on Zoom, they won't let you hear it. That's why I'm going ahead and saying this.
yeah.
You
So
see
I
the
just wanted to show
edges.
you. All right, take care.
All right, now well,
Hey.
I'm gonna stop sharing now. But yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, and the one that I showed you, like I said, it had been like 4 or 5 weeks, so I had washed my sheets a few times since then, so it kind of wore out. But when it was fresh, it was very obvious. But I noticed another thing that they can do is, I mean, this is take a little bit of explaining because it's strange, but like my mom had this blanket that she had for like 15, 20 years. But as soon as I got it, it just started falling to pieces, like holes, uh, like the seams would come undone. So whatever technology they use, they can degrade your stuff. You know what I mean? Just cause it to fall to pieces in a much shorter time than it should. And I think
Yeah, I
it's
know
they
a
use
man
that,
who bought a brand new leather jacket who gets hit with dues, and within 2 months, the brand new leather jacket was just wore out.
right? I bought a real nice pair of hiking boots, and within about 6 months, they were just fine. They were waterproof. But one day, I'm walking and it's wet out, and my feet are wet. I'm like, what the hell? So I got home and I looked, and on both shoes on the same place, there's a slit. There's a slit in them. All right. So I got kind of a list that I put together, and I'm sure that a lot of people will be able to uh uh sorry, they just kind of wiped my memory.
You were talking about the list you put together.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man.
Oh, I know how they
Uh
do. Yeah, I already know about they do that to me too.
uh
In the middle of a conversation, they'll just wipe it.
yeah. Um all right. Get me back on track, David. Help me out, Bo.
And so you're looking for the
Uh
list of the symptoms of what goes on when you're getting attacked.
yes. All right. Uh all right, so we covered pops and clicks in your house, right? Here's one. Flashing lights, and like I'll walk to the window, and there will be a light somewhere that flashes on or off. And it's always right as you come up to like a street light, or you go to a restaurant and like the light above your table is flashing, or like everywhere you go, there's a utility truck and its lights are flashing. But flashing lights is a big one.
Hazards.
Uh, yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. Dream torture. Here's a big one. I was tortured in my dreams for about a decade. Uh, at least once a week. See, I don't dream much anymore at all. Like it'll be months before I have a dream. But for about 10 or 15 years, the dreams that I would have, I would be tortured, like stabbing, drowning, burning, um, falling off of buildings. And the thing is, they always say, like, oh, you wake up like right before you hit the ground. You wake up right before you die, right? Well, that's not the case. Like, I'd be drowned, and then I'd be laying there like I should be dead. I'm dead now. But why am I still thinking, right? Or I'd fall off a building and I'd hit the ground and I'd be laying there thinking, okay, I'm dead. Wait, I'm not dead, right? But
Right.
I would always be attacked by people, shot, stabbed, burnt, thrown off buildings, drowned. And that
Wow,
lasted
I
for
have a
about
lot of them
10
dreams
years.
also.
Yeah, they're awful, man. Awful.
Yeah. It's where you wake up and you're so thankful you woke up, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, it seems so real, so real. And another thing here, I know I had a question for you, Bud. Like, when you guys talk about V2K, do you literally hear voices
Oh,
like in your
yes, a lot of the times they'll make me hear my handler's voice, they'll make me hear my sister's voice, actual
right?
voices talking to me, downing me. Matter of fact, they always say something, like, they've been telling me this whole time this interview sucks, you need to stop it, you're trash. I've been dealing with it since 2015, so it's easy for me to deal with. Sometimes it
Yeah,
feels like it's coming from, it's mostly outside my head for me, and I can hear an audible voice. Now they can make my thoughts communicate with me through my thoughts, you know what I'm saying, and down me through my thoughts
yeah,
and make me say it to myself. But yeah, a
right.
lot of the
That's
times
that's
they
what I
use my
hear.
handler's voice or my sister's voice. Most of the time they use my sister's voice is when I'm talking about God or reading the Bible, or me and Holly's praying or something like that, or reading the Bible. Then my sister will always, I don't know why they use her voice to say this, but she'll always say, David, you're a TI, your life's miserable. You can't even leave the house and you think God's on your side. She'll say stuff like that to discourage me. Every time my sister's voice is used, it's to discourage me about God. Try to.
Yeah, yeah. To destroy your confidence and sow dissension between you and your sister,
Yeah.
right?
So you
To
don't, so
break
do
up
you
your
experience
bonds.
V2K?
No, it's more of my own thoughts. Like
Right.
I converse inside my head, because if I ever heard a different voice, I would have known immediately that something else was going on. I think that's why they never used that on me, is because I would have immediately started researching about something else. But for me, it's like my own voice and my own thoughts constantly talking me down, telling me how stupid I am, uh, crap like that, just constantly tearing down at your psychology.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, the reason I asked is there was one time that I did hear voices, and it was in a dream. Uh, I was just having a normal dream, and out of nowhere, I start hearing something, and it was in my head, and they're going, "Oh, hey, Edwards, hey, hey." It was like three or four guys. Like if you walked into a room of your own friends, like, "Hey, David, hey." But that's what they were doing. But inside my dream, I even knew that this was coming from outside of me, because I remember looking up, like trying to figure out where it was coming from. But that's the one and only time I've ever heard like outside voices. Let me see. I told you about before you started the interview. We talked about like taking direct control of your body, and most of that comes in twitches, and they like to do it just as you're about to fall asleep. For me, anyway, like I'll just be on the cusp of falling asleep, and then I'll just jerk, right? And that'll happen like 4 or 5 times before I can finally get to sleep. But the one time they really showed me what they can do is that I was in a dead sleep, and then all of a sudden I sat straight up in my bed, like I don't know, like you've probably seen like Exorcist movies where they sit straight up. But it was just like
Yeah.
that, and my eyes flash open. I'm like, what just happened? Like that wasn't me. It was more like I was lifted up rather than me sitting up. And I have a friend who, she says the same thing, that one time that she fell and almost hit her head on the counter, but she didn't just fall. She was lifted up, like off of her feet. So they have this technology. They do. They can one. Now, this is one that I really want to stress, and I want to get your opinion about. So sorry, man, that I'm getting this flustered, and sometimes it's hard to think. Um,
No, it's okay. Take your time.
so I was living at a friend's house, and I'm very perceptive, so I catch a lot of small things that they do. This one I can't explain. What it was is the kitchen or the bathroom sink, right? I was living at a friend's house, so I was trying to keep it clean constantly, right? And so toothpaste, I would brush my teeth, and what I'd do is make sure to clean out the sink really well, spick and span, clean. But what was happening is that I'd clean it out, and then I'd turn around to dry my hands, and then I'd turn back around to the sink, and there's a glob of toothpaste in it.
Hmm.
Now, to me, we hear a lot about, people breaking into my house and moving things around, right? Changing things around in your house. And they had done that to me several times. And that was my assumption, was that it must be when I'm asleep, they're coming in, moving things around. But this was the first time something truly supernatural happened that I cannot explain. And this didn't just happen once. I was able to test this about 4 or 5 times, because the next day it happened again. I
Wow.
clean out the sink, right? There's nothing in there. I my hands and I turn back around and there's a glob of paste. And so I cleaned it out again and then I tested it. I turn around, dry my hands, and there's toothpaste again. So I'm not going to pretend to understand how they do this. I don't have any answers. All as I can do is relay my experience that I didn't just experience it, I got to test it because it happened like 2 or 3 more times when I was cognizant of it and I was able to make it happen again. So I'm just
Right.
going to leave that out there for because I have no answer for that. How
Right.
I
And the other day, man,
so
it was the other day, the interview they took down, the girl was talking about, she was a whistleblower. She blew the whistle on somebody very high up. Anyway, they made objects in her house move. I don't know if you caught the interview or not. Like they made
no, I
spoons
didn't.
move. They made a lamp. They made her lamps. She had 2 lamps on this table. They made them move and fall off. And people don't understand they have this technology, and that's, the Amityville Horror was nothing more than an experiment with mind control and electronic weapons. They were making stuff
Yeah,
move
they're
in the house. They mind controlled the dude to kill his family. It was a whole mind
yeah,
control experiment. So people who have a hard time thinking about the supernatural, well, that didn't really happen. Well, yeah, they mind controlled him. They used psychotronic weapons
yeah.
and caused all that in Amityville. And, I read that book back in the day and I was always, man, how could that be a true story? And now I see how it can be a true story.
They do have the technology
They can
and
make you
and
hear
it's
people in your walls. They can make you
yeah.
hear people on the ceiling. They can make you hear, cries coming from, they can make anything happen.
And imagine what those people went through like decades ago who didn't have the internet to be able to talk about these things, right?
Right.
And to share stories like this. Uh, their lives had to have been ripped apart. They had to have
Oh, yeah.
been miserable, driven insane, and it was all for an experiment just to see if they could do it. And, I think they have a lot of fun doing it too. Killing people like that, they're sick, man. Um, Another strange one is like puzzles. When I first learned about this, I was doing a lot of puzzles. I go out and I buy a brand new puzzle. I bring it home, start putting it together. I get about half done, and then I go take a nap, come back and finish it, and there's always a puzzle piece missing. Always. So I'd look around for it, wouldn't find it, go back to sleep, wake up, I look for the puzzle piece again, and it's like, right there, like under my seat or something, someplace I'd already looked. So they can hide things from you, make things disappear.
Yep. Um,
Um, I was going to say another, when I was doing the puzzles, another thing that made me, suspicious about my girlfriend uh, was I'm thinking, man, if she's really one of those, she's like an AI robot. And the moment she walked in, she doesn't have to look for, where this piece goes. She knows right where it goes. She could just come up and put it right in there. She's just playing with me, trying to look for pieces. And then she walks in the room, grabs a piece, and says, "Oh, that's where it goes," and puts it in there. Right.
yeah.
And speaking that out loud, it it sounds so crazy to me, dude. Saying that and thinking about that. I don't know.
When this, they love to play the games and, especially, you had did a lot of people know about your, like, did a lot of your family and friends know about your history with hallucinogens? Because another thing they'll do is, if they see somebody who uses drugs, they're easy targets, you
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? Because that's
yeah,
that's the
Yeah.
first thing people around him is going to say. Well, he was on
Yep.
drugs, and that's why he had this experience. And
Yeah.
so they're
That's
easy
why.
targets. You know what I'm saying? So you could be sober
Yeah.
for,
That's why.
you could be known for, oh, he did hallucinate. So 20 years later, oh, he's just using, not
That's
telling nobody, and that's how he's having these experiences. They always want to attack. They'll attack vulnerable people like that.
right. Yeah. That's why I'm hesitant to bring up that experience because it's associated
Yeah.
with a drug. But that's why they did it, is so that that cover story is there,
Yep.
right? They didn't need me to take a drug. I say it's the day that I was uploaded. That's how I explain it. Oh, I was uploaded in 1999. That's how I explain it, because that's, as far as I know, I try to explain things within my own understanding. I'm trying to understand more, but we have to have some kind of a common language to be able to communicate these things. You know what I mean? So I just say, yeah, that's what I was uploaded. But they needed that drug cover story so that, one, I wouldn't figure out immediately what was going on, that something was done to me, and two, that I could be discredited when I say, tell people my story, right?
Right.
So yeah, they're very clever in how they set these things up. And like, if it didn't work, they wouldn't use this. They wouldn't have been so successful for the last however many
Have you went
decades
through
they.
any smear campaigns?
Not that I know of. I I mean, I'm pretty sure I have,
You never
but I
felt like
think a
your
lot
stalkers
of
had
it,
been told something about you and were looking at you in an evil
yeah,
way and stuff like that? And because like
possibly,
me, some of my stalking, I'm like, what if these people told to be able to go to these links to do this to me? They had to have been
right?
told something bad to even agree to do something to me.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
think
ever
a
get that
lot of it.
feeling?
I don't. I think a lot of it is they're not told directly. I think that this is all psychological. Like, they're talking, that the AI is speaking to their subconscious, right? So they don't, it's not like they get an email where they say, target this person, they did this, they did this. I think it's that when you approach somebody, the AI is speaking to their subconscious, saying these things about them. Now, most people who are unaware, that they will start getting a weird feeling about you and they don't know why, right? But there's a general feeling of distrust towards you. I think that's mostly how it's done. I do believe that there are people who are paid and hired, like through the fusion centers and all that. I think there's a system of uh, you know people who are working off a sentence. They say, well, we'll take time off your sentence if you stalk this guy, right? And then, hey, we'll even pay you for it. I think that system is in place, and there are those people. But I also think that, just in general, like, it's mostly a subconscious thing. But shit, I might be wrong. You know what I mean?
Right. Have you ever experienced any honeypots?
Not that I know. Man, that's hard to say. I I don't know. Like,
Like, I mean, a honeypot ain't even got to be, so to speak, a girlfriend. It could be somebody who they send in your life to get close to try to manage your targeting and, you know, from behind the
probably, but
scenes.
I'm kind of a I'm kind of a naive person. Like, I'm very naive. I don't think about people and their motives when I'm
Right.
around people. So it's just not. I think that there's a good chance that it has happened, but like, I'd say the last 20 years of my life, man, I don't a lot of it I don't remember because, like I said, I disassociated, and there's so much that just like my life just kind of passed me by and kind of this like a dark dream. You know what I mean? That I wasn't really a participant in my own life. I just kind of watched it go by. So a lot of those things, the memories of of that is hard for me to say. So like the girls in my life, a lot of it was just one night stands, you know, because I couldn't get out to meet people. You know, I was never very suave in my dealings with people because of my social anxiety. So
Right.
maybe, you know, 1 or 2 nights a year, I might get lucky. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, so it's hard to say about the
Can you
honeypots.
hold a job? Are you able to hold a job?
No, I got on disability when I was about 25, I think. So there was about 5 years there where I was working jobs like Walmart. I did do like tax assessment. That after the rave, after I was uploaded, I was doing tax assessment where I would go door to door and like you compare people's properties to what's on, you know, their sheet. And that's when
Right.
I started really figuring it because I was having panic attacks going door to door. And that's when I really discovered whatever they did to me, like really screwed me up. And it was downhill from there. I had a real hard time keeping a job and trying to deal with the torture I was going through. So yeah, I got on disability about when I was 25. For a long time, I was always into electronics, so I do like some computer repair here and there to try to make a little bit of money. But I've been pretty poor all my life.
Right. Um, could you explain how you cope with your targeting?
Yeah. Uh, like I said, before I knew it was happening, I coped mostly with staying inside, you know, not going out. Um, but after my targeting, I finally figured out that a lot of somehow whatever is in our food serves as an amplifier for the torture. So
Right.
when I figured out that our food was poison, I mean, I stopped eating completely. Like I went about, I would just eat fruits once a day, like some grapes for like a couple weeks. And then I go 3 or 4 days without eating. And then I eat a meal. And then I go 5 days without eating a thing. And then I'd eat one meal. And then I went 7 days without eating anything. And dude, I was like 120 pounds. My bones were sticking through my skin. And like when I sat in the bathtub, it hurt because my bones and my spine were sticking through. So I went real hardcore about the food because I knew that
Did it help any
from
when you
what
were fasting?
it did not in the long term for sure. In the short term, not so much because because I had figured out who they are. I figured out most of their system. I had decoded so much of their language. They were trying to kill me. They were trying to kill me. So they were doing things to me physically and stalking me so hard at that time that uh, like there was just nothing I could do. But the
Right.
Lord was on my side and he saw me through all that. Um, he even did a couple miracles through me, which was pretty neat. Maybe I'll tell you about that sometime.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah. Because when I was in that when I uh there you go through that stage when you first start dealing with this where you really don't even want to be on Earth no more. I don't know if you've went through that
Yeah.
stage, but you're like, man, I don't even
Yeah.
want to be here no more. You hate life.
Yeah.
Do you have any hobbies and stuff that help you cope? Anything you like to do?
Not my mind is so shattered that I can't really concentrate. I've pretty much forgotten. I mean, I used to be into like I liked history a lot, but then I figured out that all our history is a lie. So you got to scrub that. I used to play a lot of video games, but the AI torture wouldn't let me play video games. Like uh, you start noticing patterns, even just playing solitaire online, it'll mess with you. So like video games, like all of a sudden you can't do anything because it'll just make you die. Like, oh, you didn't push the button in time, but it's really just the AI screwing with you. So I stopped playing video games. Now I spend about 90% of my time decoding the mysteries of the world.
Right.
And pretty incredible. I'll like the Lord has shown me my purpose, and it's pretty great, which I've always liked mysteries, Sherlock Holmes and things like that. So to put together these things is pretty incredible. Like I decoded the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, and I'll send you that post, man. It's not what people think, and I that's my purpose, and it brings me joy, and I'm good at it. And when you do that, when you expose the evil and their symbolism, their language, you are actually destroying them, because knowledge destroys evil, because that's where evil hides, is in the shadows, in the places that we are ignorant to. And that's really why they've come after me so hard, is because I'm a very strong spiritual warrior for the Lord. And really, that's why they come after you, David, and all of us, is to destroy the Lord's believers.
Right. Well, we got about 10 minutes left. You got anything you want to say?
I know you usually ask if anyone has any suggestions on how to tone down the torture. I would
Yeah.
say fasting is the biggest one. Um, it's not so much what you eat, it's more about how much you eat. And exercise is very important too. I think whatever they're putting in our food, the nanotech, it's serving as an amplifier to all this. So even though you can't get rid of your torture completely, you can highly turn down its effects. And when I say, please trust me when I say that, I've been there, I've been through it all. I was extremely tortured, but the fasting and toning down your food intake and exercising, getting that nano out of you, is probably the single biggest thing that you can do.
Yeah, because I find multitasking helps me too. When you get like 3 or 4 things going on and you're thinking in multiple threads, it's hard for
Yeah,
hard
they
for
can't.
remote neural monitoring and stuff like that to work.
Yeah,
I
to
found
track
that.
your thoughts, it confuses them for
Mm-hmm.
sure. The Yeah, and I know you're into that handpan music. You found something that distracts you from what they can do, because it's like they get you into a mode of thought or a train of thought, and I don't know, it just whatever makes it easier for them to manipulate you and to
And do you go through
map.
sleep deprivation?
No, thankfully
Or
they
do
they
they ever
do.
put you to sleep?
Yes, I have been experiencing extreme fatigue for the last couple weeks where around 3 or 4 o'clock, I just like I can't think anymore. And they just put me down for the count, sleep for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They'll wake me up around 4:30 in the morning. But thankfully I don't have like a job, so I can sleep whenever I want. So it's really not too much of an effect other than just kind of a small annoyance.
Yeah. Like they're making me really drowsy right now. I've been fighting it for
Right.
about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Is it
Uh,
usually during a certain time of day for you when they do that?
uh, yeah, like if me and my girlfriend's trying to watch a movie, I'll get me or her will get this overwhelming feeling of drowsiness and we'll just conk out like 10 minutes into the movie. Uh,
Right.
and there's no waking us up either. Like I'll try to wake her up, she'll try to wake, and we're just out dead to the world. They try to make these weapons will they make me feel fatigue. I'm usually
Mhm.
sweating all the time. Uh, I got my second hat yesterday, thank God. So now I got two hats to put in the freezer. Because the problem was when they were
Yeah.
burning me, I would put one hat, and when that hat got hot, you had to put it back in the freezer and you burn up until it gets cold again.
Yeah.
It takes about 30 to 40
Yeah.
minutes. So I got two now, I can rotate them. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. You got smart, man.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Do whatever
but
you
I'm like
can
you, the
to.
fatigue is unbelievable. Like, so I have to force myself to work out, force myself to
Yeah.
get cardio in. I really takes effort to even do that stuff, because the fatigue they make you feel these weapons.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Do you enjoy working out, or is it like
Yeah, I
a
enjoy it,
hassle?
but lately I've had to force myself to do it, because I just ain't
Yeah.
had no energy.
Right. Yeah, they said it's been a while since they've done that to me. So now that they started, it's a lot harder to deal with. I tell you, man, they didn't want me to do this interview. Um, like the last few weeks have been pretty calm here, but then the last 2 days have been insane. Like uh, sirens. There was a false fire alarm pulled right across the street. Um, but yeah, they've done that crap to me before too. But like, yeah, the last 2 days have been nuts, and I just figured because they didn't want us to talk.
Right. Well, I'm definitely glad you came out, and I hope you keep corresponding with me through email, and maybe we can even exchange numbers or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
man, for sure.
I'm trying to think of what else I was going to say. Uh, I meant to ask you, with your direct energy attacks, do you ever feel vibrations or shocks in your body?
Shocks and yeah, both.
Yeah.
Like right now, like I'm walking back and forth because I there's just a constant sense of unease, right? And I can feel myself shaking. It's just a low vibration, but it's constantly there. The shocks, I have not dealt with shocks in several months, which I am thankful for because out of all this, I think that was the worst, the shock treatments.
Right.
But like I said, if I start eating again, like normally, then the shocks will start up again. And
Right.
at this point, I wouldn't survive another intense round of that kind of torture. I wouldn't survive it. So I'm doing everything I can, to keep it at bay.
Do you think this program will ever end?
Yes, I'm sure of it.
And how?
Uh, uh, I can't say exactly how, but I believe that the good guys have taken control of this system. But the reason it has not stopped is you have to understand how deadly it really is. The capabilities of AI, they could have redundant systems everywhere. We're not talking about worldwide threat, we're talking about local threats too. So this system that has been put in place over what, hundreds of years, thousands of years. I mean, how old is this thing? We don't know. So it's taking a little while to dismantle it. But the time is soon at hand. We will be freed from our slavery from the system. It will be shut down. It will be the greatest moment in all of human history. It will be a worldwide celebration, and we will be free to take dominion back over the Lord's creation. And it's going to be the best day of our lives. And Lord,
I
I
hope
hope
you're
He
right.
sees it fit to bring us all together in that celebration, but it is soon at hand. It really is.
Well, I hope you're right. And like I said, do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so, buddy.
All right. Well, maybe in a few months or something, we can bring you back for a follow up.
Okay.
To say say what's going on now. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, and we can
Okay.
say our goodbyes. Thank you for coming for this interview. Really appreciate it.